you know, year after year, week after week, month after month, to Versus Cancer. Incredible. And as we typically like to do in our ambassadors meetings, as you know, we like to kick off our meetings with a mission moment. So it brings me such a great honor to introduce Lori Evans, great friend of mine. We've become close friends over the past couple of years, and I think most of you, some of you that are on this call might remember meeting Lori and her family actually back at ABCA in Nashville in January of 2020. And so she was gracious enough to come back and join us today and kind of just talk a little bit about their journey and some things that they've been doing and have going on as well. So again, brings me such a great honor to introduce Lori. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Lori.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dave. It's so good to see all of your faces on here today. Many of you, like Dave said, I met in person with my family, my husband, Tom. We have 3 boys, Nathan, who's now 16, Noah, who is our brave warrior who went to heaven in January of this year, was 12 at the time. And then my littlest is actually now 12. So 3 boys, that's Noah back there. In our little picture up there, we keep in our kitchen of him. So many of you I had the opportunity to meet back in January of 2020, like Dave said, at the baseball conference that was there at Gaylord in Nashville. And we had an opportunity to meet you guys, to share some of Noah's journey. At the time, we were just getting started with Noah's journey. So Noah was diagnosed in September of 2019 with a diffuse midline glioma with the H3K27M mutation, which is a highly rare and super aggressive form of brain cancer. Most kids, when they're upon diagnosis, receive a 6 to 9 or 6 to 12 month earthly prognosis. So at the time when we met you guys, January, we were just a couple months into Noah's journey. So he had undergone brain surgery at Vanderbilt. We did radiation and chemo at Vanderbilt. And then we got onto a trial at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. So Noah was there for 10 months. Most of his journey was miraculous. He showed very few symptoms during an incredible part time-wise on his journey, which was, every time we went into the doctors, they would be like, hey, Noah, are you struggling in this? Are you struggling in this? And he kept saying, no, we're good. I'm great. He played pickleball. He continued to play soccer. He's also into musical theater and improv. So he was able to participate in all the events. He still had schooling that he did. So he truly was a miracle in his journey. But about 7 months in, we started, his scans started showing that there was progression of disease. So we started, just really not knowing what to do. The trial that he was on at Michigan obviously was no longer working, but we just kind of kept holding tight to maybe the progression will stop, maybe it'll go away. And we're a family of faith. We did a ton of praying every moment of every day. And August of 2020, we went to Michigan for the last time, and Noah's scans continue to show progression of disease. So his one tumor that started in his thalamus had progressed to his brainstem and his cerebellum. So he had 3 and then a fourth location. So he was battling 4 brain tumors, but you would actually have never known. He was still surprisingly healthy. And it was shortly after that trip at that time, the doctor said, you need to look for another trial. This is not working anymore. We've exhausted all possible opportunities for him, and you need to find something else. As a mom, that is the most helpless feeling you could ever experience as a parent. I see most of you are dads probably on this call, but and you're a dad to all these kids that you coach. But that was one of the most helpless, hopeless feelings on the whole journey when they told us that the trial wasn't working, and they basically sent us off to find something else on our own. They said, nothing works. You can try to reach out to a few places, but you kind of have to make a decision at this point, whether you just want to enjoy the last few months you have with your son, or if you want, to try something else. we're fighters. We are not that if we had chosen a different path, we wouldn't have been, but we just decided that we weren't done fighting the fight. Noah ended up having some tumor symptoms that did take over in mid-September of last year. And we went back to Vanderbilt for another 10 rounds of radiation. It was actually at that time that we connected with the Kansas State baseball team shortly after. I think it was right in the middle of his treatment, or right as he was finishing up that second round of radiation. We connected with the Kansas State baseball team, had a Zoom call with them, got to meet them, got to encourage them in their Shave for the Brave event that they were getting ready to do, or had just done, I believe, because as a family that met many of you and then got connected with the Kansas State baseball team, I know that what you are doing is impacting families like mine directly. So it was really neat to connect with them, get on a Zoom call with them. They were amazing. They actually allowed Noah to be a part of their team this season. They put his initials on their ball caps, and they gave him a nameplate in the locker room at Kansas State, which was incredible. We got a lot of Kansas State garb. So we were cats for the season, had purple all over, which was just so supportive and incredible. But it was shortly after that that we had decided we were going to go to Duke University on a secondary trial for Noah. And actually it was last year at this exact time that we started Noah's trial there. It was an immunotherapy trial. Basically, there's a virus that lives in brain tumors, and they felt like if they could inject him with that virus, that the body would fight off not only the virus that was in his brain tumor, but also the tumors themselves. So it was actually last year, this time, yesterday, that he had his first injection. And I remember texting Dave. Actually, a lot of the guys had reached out to us from the Kansas State baseball team to let us know that they were thinking about Noah and praying for him in the upcoming trial. And I had asked Duke University, I just said, who's funding your trial? Because on this journey, you learn a lot. You learn that the government does not do a lot of funding for pediatric cancers in general, and then specifically for brain cancers, which are, I'm hoping you guys know, but the deadliest form of pediatric cancer is brain cancer. And so I asked Duke, I just said, who is funding the trial that Noah's about to be on? And they said, well, it's partially being funded by grants and, donors to Duke University, but it's also being funded by the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. And I just glue with just joy. I couldn't wait. I emailed Dave immediately and was like, you'll never believe this, that the trial that Noah's about to be on is being partially funded by you guys. And there was just this sense of support that I was so excited that we were going to be a part of something that you guys were actually putting your hands to. So and then at the Noah's first treatment, I remember sitting in the hospital room with him, and he got these injections in his upper thighs, and you had to be monitored because it's an immunotherapy. So they had to wait to see what his response was. And there was a DVD player in their room. They said, he can watch a movie, whatever he wants to do, because we were there all day. And I remember going to put a DVD in the player, and I saw the Versus Cancer sticker on the DVD player. And I took a picture of that and shot it to Dave, and just, it was like I didn't know anyone at Duke. It was hard journey choosing to go to Duke, but then to know that you guys and what you do with Versus Cancer was a part of Noah's journey specifically was super impactful for me. And I felt like we were being supported in an incredible way through Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation and Versus Cancer specifically. So Noah started that trial a year ago. Today, he had injections every 2 weeks. So we would be at Duke, and then we would travel back to Nashville, and then 2 weeks later, go back to Duke. And his body responded really, 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 not positively, but he had a high response, which the doctors kept telling us was an incredible thing. They just said, this is what we want to see. He actually ended up in the hospital multiple times after the injections because of his body. It's called cytokine release syndrome, but it's basically his immunity went crazy, and it was so strong fighting the tumors, which is exactly, like I said, what they wanted to see. But his body just didn't have, it just didn't work out the way we had hoped. So we ended up not being able to continue on the trial at Duke. And we came home, and he declined pretty quickly after mid-December. He started having seizures in mid-December, and we took him to Vanderbilt. We had some spend the nights there trying to figure out what to do. And long story short, in January, early January, we took him in for the last time, and they did a scan, and they just said, you know, the tumors have taken over. There's nothing more we can do for you medically. You just need to take him home and enjoy the rest of the time that you have with him. So we conferred with the doctors at Duke. They felt the same way, that they had done all that they could for Noah, and that he just needed to go home. So they sent us home on hospice on January 5th of 2021. They gave him about a month to live, and he lived another 9 days with us. The morning before he went to heaven, he had not been verbal, but he had been verbal up until about 2 days, 3 days prior to that. He was more just mouthing things. But the day before he went to heaven, about 24 hours before he went to heaven, I was at his bedside early in the morning. He woke up, and he just looked at me, opened his eyes real bright, real wide, and he just said, "I love you guys," with the strongest, firmest voice that I had heard from him in quite some time. And that was the last time he spoke to us on this side of heaven. And about 24 hours later, he went to heaven, and that was January 14th of 2021. So that has been kind of Noah's journey from the time that I met you guys back in January of 2020 until last year or this past January. And so that's how I got to know some of you, got to share Noah's journey then. I appreciate you guys letting me share just that bit of journey with him now, where we've been. And since then, so we're coming up on 10 months since Noah's been in heaven. This time of the year is hard, just because it brings up a lot of emotions. Just the 1 year since we started the trial at Duke, Thanksgiving, you know, remembering his last Thanksgiving last year when he still was relatively healthy, considering what his body was enduring. First Christmas without him coming up, and then obviously his heavenly healing next January. But so this kind of enters into a hard time for us, but also a joyful time, as I just get to thank you. I get to look at the work that is being done through Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, through Versus Cancer, through the heart that you guys have to encourage your players to jump on board with something they might never personally experience. I mean, this is one of those things that you never, ever, ever, ever think is going to affect you or your family, and, you know, your near family. And I mean, he played travel soccer. He was a great, super athletic kid, did musical theater, like I said, improv, was at school all day, started having headaches. And then they were like, hey, he has a brain tumor. And not only does he have a brain tumor, it's super aggressive, super rare. There's no cure, no treatment really beyond radiation and chemotherapy. And he's got 6 to 12 months, and they're going to be really hard 6 to 12 months. And that's what they tell you. That's what they tell these parents. And that's really hard. And you never think it's going to happen to you. So this season, since his heaven going last January, has been very hard, obviously, without him here. I know he's here with us every day. We keep his memory alive and the things that we talk about him all the time. But also his memory stays alive through the efforts, like I said, of you guys and other foundations. We actually started a foundation in Noah's memory, in his honor, this past year. It's called the Noah Brave Foundation, and we partner with families who have been given terminal brain cancer diagnoses, and we walk with them in that journey. We help them from the day they're diagnosed until the kids are healed, and then even beyond. We just want to be a support that's constantly there for them. That's one leg of our foundation. The other one is to partner with Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation and some other foundations that are helping research, because there is such a need for research to help give these kids a chance. You know, it's, again, one of those things that you never think is going to happen to you, and then you're the one sitting across from an oncologist telling you that you have a year left with your kid or less. And so what you guys are doing through Versus Cancer and raising these boys that you're coaching to care about other people that they might not ever even meet, but to help them know that they serve a purpose beyond that by raising money for research. is huge. It impacted us personally to see that Versus Cancer sticker. Not only was it this moment of, man, like they're actually, we're benefiting from it, but it was this support that you feel to know that there's people out there that do care and that do want to help see a change in the research field, because currently government only gives 4% of their funding to pediatric cancers. A smaller portion of that goes to brain cancer. And since it is the deadliest form, we rely on you. We rely on people who are willing to do hard things that they might not normally do to help make a difference in the lives of families like mine. And actually, I wear, these are, I don't know if you can see all my bracelets, but each one of these bracelets actually represents a child who I'm friends with the mom, and they all have passed away in the last year from diffuse gliomas. And we talk every day, and we know how important research is and just the support that you guys give. And so I just thank you, first of all. Thank you for continuing to press in with Versus Cancer, with the influence that you have with these boys that you coach. Thank you for giving Noah an opportunity. We really did hope and believe that Noah would have been healed on Earth. And we really did feel like the trial at Duke was what was going to give it to us. And but just because it didn't work out for us that way doesn't mean that the next person that's going to be diagnosed doesn't have that opportunity. And so it's through you guys and your funding for research that does that. So again, I thank you for that. I thank you for just being a difference maker, bringing light into darkness. The journey truly is really, really devastating. And so to know that we have people that don't know us personally to support us is super impactful. And I just encourage you to keep fighting. I encourage you to, I know that the collegiate world is super interconnected. I was actually a collegiate gymnast at Auburn back a long time ago. And I know how the coaching, you connect. Coaches know coaches from whether it's club team or high schools or junior colleges or whatever, you guys all know each other. And so I would encourage you to invite one of your coaching friends to get on board with what you're doing. Because it would be amazing to have every collegiate baseball team across the nation involved in Versus Cancer. Because it takes, it's amazing that up until 2 years ago, I had never heard of this type of brain cancer. I had no idea it existed. It was such a blind side to me. Yes, I knew kids that I knew of kids that had cancer, but you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so for you guys to have the opportunity and the connectedness that you are in the baseball world to, invite a coach to join you this year, challenge them to get their teams involved. And not only, I think it will help us, but I think it helps your team and the camaraderie that you guys feel and the support to know that you're doing something beyond playing baseball. A lot of these kids, I remember that from my years at Auburn doing gymnastics. It was like, it's a short season. You're there for 4 years, and some of the kids might not even play that long. And then you have the rest of your life to live. And so who knows what this opportunity for them to go beyond playing baseball, but using their platform of baseball to reach other people, to support families, to reach cancer funding, what that will do for their life beyond baseball, beyond the 4 years that you have direct influence on their lives. So I encourage you for that. I again say thank you. Because of you, we did have an opportunity to attend another trial for Noah. It did give us more time with him. And I'm super grateful for that. I know I miss him more than I can express. He would have been 14 this past May. And life is absolutely, there's a huge hole in my life that will always be there because he's not. And so I just ask that you would continue to press in, encourage each other, challenge each other. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was going to say. I think that's it. I don't know. I'm grateful you guys gave me the opportunity to talk this morning. Thank you for what you do. And yeah, just keep fighting the good fight for Versus Cancer and families like ours and my sweet Noah up there that one day soon we'll see again. And until that day, we'll just keep pressing forward. So yeah, thank you for letting me share.